All right. Well, welcome to Neighboring 101. This is officially session number 76. And this is where we talk to leaders with the neighboring movement all across the United States and discover ways that organizations and individuals can use the art and skill of neighboring as part of community and personal development. I want to say just a word about the picture behind me now that Chet has logged in, because this picture comes from him from somewhere in Texas. If you've ever read the book, The Turquoise Table, that's it. That's where it originated. That is the uh, ladies' yard, Kristen Shell, I believe, right? Anything else you should tell us about that, Chet?
I was visiting a friend and we were driving through the neighborhood and we saw that table and it clicked. I remember all the Turquoise Table author and book, and it's so great to see these tools of community gathering spaces that create third spaces in place and folks's front yards, helping
Yeah,
bring people out. I think that's in line with our topic today. So I'm excited.
exactly. That's what made me think of it. This little table started a whole movement, and thinking it applies to our discussion today. Before we jump in with our guest speaker, just want to begin by creating sort of a connection uh, connection before content. And so, either in chat or by turning on your microphone and sharing, what sort of winter activities have you seen bring neighbors together? Any wintertime activities that you've seen bring neighbors together? You're welcome to use the chat or take yourself off microphone. This is part of that creating connection before content.
I'll share one to get us started. I lived on a street called Wilbur Avenue, and after every snow, there was a handful of neighbors that were we called ourselves the Wilbur Winter Warriors, and we were actually exciting and kind of just chomping at the bit to get out there and shovel all the sidewalks on our block. It's better than going to the gym. Gets folks outside. Obviously, our older elderly neighbors that might be out of shape or aren't their hearts aren't and fitness might not be there. It's a really great gesture to be able to support them, and having neighbors look outside and see that their sidewalk has already been shoveled is one of those random acts of kindness that they are surely to pay forward. Um,
Yeah, that's a great example, and couldn't happen any other time except wintertime, right? Carolyn says her neighborhood has done cookies and cocoa for get-togethers in the past. Yeah, a little hot cocoa on a cold winter day. That certainly fits with the theme. Snow angels, Laura in Excelsior Springs. Yeah, matching them up with seniors that need help with their sidewalks or driveway shoveling. An indoor winter harvest. So an indoor type of event. Yeah, depending on where you're at, you sometimes have to turn those into indoor events. Here in Springfield, Missouri today, we're just right at 33 degrees. It's been a very mild winter, but you may be somewhere where it's a lot colder than that. So, all right, well, keep thinking on those. If you have some examples, share those in in chat. Love hearing those ideas. Just one reminder, Diane, do you have a question? Diana, I see your hand has just gone up.
Yes, I was trying to unmute. I had one thing to add about what you were just talking about. And I live in a real small town. Well, it's not that small. It's 3,000 people in Missouri. And this year, we always try to do something during the year, but this year, the city and the community really went all out. I mean, we decorated our square just beautifully. We had a Christmas parade, the biggest one that we've had since I've been here. And all the stores were open around the square. Um, so many people were serving hot chocolate. and we've been encouraging local shopping for quite some time, shop locally. And it really is having an effect. I mean, it just really seems like more and more our community in general is pulling together. We're trying to help pulling together to help feed our neighbors, but practically everybody is collecting money and food and volunteering to distribute. And so there's a lot
Great,
going on, and it feels like we've turned a bit of a corner.
great example. Diana, what community are you in it in?
It's
Brag on your
a
town.
it's Ava,
Oh,
AVA,
yeah,
Missouri. Yeah. Mhm.
absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's great to hear about that going on in Ava,
You're
Missouri,
welcome.
home of the National Foxtrotter Association.
That's
So,
right.
well, one reminder here, and then I'll introduce our guest, and we'll get going. We have a bonus session of Neighboring 101 coming up on Groundhog Day, Monday, February 2nd. And this bonus session is with Jennifer Wallace. She is a best-selling author, actually. She has a new book that has just come out, and she had reached out to me about being able to talk about that with this very specific audience, actually. Her new book is called Mattering, The Secret to a Life of Deep Connection and Purpose. I've just started reading it myself. She sent me a copy. It officially, I think, comes out this week. No, it comes out that first week of February. And it focuses on the universal human need to feel value and to offer value. So absolutely connects with the neighboring topic. You'll get reminders, but that's will be a special session, a bonus session, because this is a special session today. Our our guest today is Matt Evans. He's a seasoned business leader with a very diverse professional background. Got to meet him in person at the Neighborhoods USA conference in Jacksonville, Florida. His professional background spans technology and strategic innovation. He's known kind of for blending industry expertise with a passion for building products and ventures that solve real life problems. I think that's a little bit of how he ended up coming to this topic, actually. He is the creator of the Out and About. Uh, it's kind of his entrepreneurial vision that led to that program that he's going to be talking with us about today. It kind of blends community engagement and digital solutions, fits perfectly with his background. His academic foundation includes a degree from Harvard Law School and the University of Utah. Uh, Both of those underscore his commitment to analytical thinking, but also real world application. Uh, I'll let him share anything else he wants to about his career, but something he might not mention, but I understand is correct. He is also the holder of two Guinness World Records for the biggest and tallest Lincoln log structure. So, I mean, if that doesn't get you excited, nothing will. So, Matt, thank you for joining us today and sharing about Out and About. Oops, you may still be on mute.
I was. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, thanks, David. That was funny. That made me laugh. Um, yeah, we did the Guinness World Records. I did that in my 40s or whatever, but I told my kids, when we were doing it, and I did it because I said world records are most exciting for like, 6 to 10 year olds. And so Lincoln Logs are perfect for that because we got to involve a whole bunch of kids.
That is really awesome. Well,
Well, thanks for having me today. I don't have anything else to add to my background, except that I do like to solve problems and I like to try to troubleshoot things and figure out where I can make a difference. Because so much of business is trying to figure out where there's a need and trying to figure out some solution that can meet it. And there's a crisis in the country of people not knowing each other and feeling disconnected from one another. And I had seen a program that I thought had been pretty successful here in Utah that different neighborhoods would implement. And I wanted to see if there was a way to expand and scale that so that it could reach, go nationwide and reduce the amount of effort that it takes to put it together. So that's how I came to do Outabout. I did this as a local thing for several years to kind of like learn the pain points and do some, product market fit, so to speak, and then came up with what I'll present today.
Yeah.
So, let me see, I need to share my screen.
Yep. I just gave you co-host abilities, so you should be able to do that.
Okay. Can you see my
Awesome.
PowerPoint?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so Outabout is the name of the organization that I'm working with. Let's see. And the objective is just to get people to know one another. We're trying to establish the cultural tradition that on the first Sunday of every month, everyone everywhere, so that means everyone who's on this call, there's an Outabout. I'm manifesting this to the universe and to the nation and asking for everyone's help. Um, Everyone everywhere goes outside to stroll their neighborhood and visit on the first Sunday. So it's just a coordinated time. It used to be commonplace that people would go outside and walk the neighborhood back before air conditioning made it more comfortable to be in home in the inside, and before TVs gave a lot of entertainment and our phones made it worse. It
Mm.
used to be really common that people would just go around the neighborhood. So we're working to establish the tradition that first Sundays are the time when everybody does that to re-establish an old connection, an old cultural tradition. So an Outabout itself is like trick-or-treating for adults and families. People go around the neighborhood visiting, and some neighbors sit outside with seats or a treat just to welcome people to stop by and visit a minute. So you can either stroll or you can host, either way. And the intention is that eventually it's all just self-organizing, like trick-or-treating. Nobody establishes trick-or-treating or no one tells you what to do. Everyone just knows what to do on October 31st if you want to participate. You can either stay at home and offer candy, or you can go around the neighborhood with some kids and let them pick up candy. But no, there's no central organizing force that tells people how to do it or what to do. Everybody just knows what to do on October 31st if they want to participate. So I'm hoping to make the same habit of culture for First Sundays. So I believe that outabouts are the easiest and lowest effort activity that gets people out to visit each other. So like this is a woman who sent me a photo, and this she just put out a table, and she was offering lemonade, and so she just goes outside on the first Sunday and makes this little stop so that anyone who's walking by will stop and visit with her and their neighbors for a little bit. So one of the alarming statistics that came out of the Surgeon General's report on loneliness and isolation was that only 16% of Americans feel very attached to their local community. So that means 84% of Americans do not feel very attached.
That's a good stat.
So in the neighboring movement, we all know that it makes a huge difference when you know all of your neighbors. So that little red dot is supposed to represent somebody who's gone out of their way to meet 20 people who live near them and introduce themselves and establish a relationship. But for the benefits of social capital, one person knowing all those 20 is insufficient. They need to know each other. And so like compared to that first diagram to this diagram, the difference is 210 versus 20 relationships. So that's true social capital when you have those kind of relationships and everybody knows everyone. It's not just one person. So it's important for us to know our neighbors, but then it's also important that we find ways to help them meet each other. So on the Outabout, when you invite people over, and I'll get to this, and I'll get to the how in a second, but it's really easy. So like this neighbor of ours, he just put out a cooler with some water bottles and invited people. So you can see he just has some a handful of folding chairs and some water bottles, and so there's not even room for everyone else to sit, but they're just walking around the neighborhood visiting. And the neighbor who hosted, he's not actually in this photo. He was at the left of this screen. But these are just neighbors who are out walking around, participating in the Outabout that night, and who just have this like micro block party because there's people congregating around these chairs and the water bottles. And so people just stop and hang out. And typically people are at a stop for, 5 or 10 minutes, and then they just move on to another one. And with some people will just linger for, 30 to 60 minutes just talking to the people or the hosts. other people continue moving. Depends on the number of people who are hosting. So we say it's the first Sunday of each month, weather permitting, and that means different things to different people. In Utah, the peak of the out about season is like, April through early October, and then starts to get cool. But this is just an attempt to see what would happen in November and December. So that's just a portable campfire pit on a driveway with some marshmallows for people to roast and then hot cocoa. And you can see they're wearing, puffer coats and hats and stuff. But it was pretty cool. But there's like 50 people in that photo who just came by. This was the only stop that particular first Sunday, the only place to go. So everyone just congregated there and they hung out for like an hour and then everyone just went back home. And we did it in a November and a December, so they were cold and it was a big hit. So what does outabout.org do? Instead of just doing this wherever you are, why would you collaborate with Outabout? The big obstacles and what I learned when I did this myself is that people need to know when and where. So they need to know when to go out to visit their neighbors, like when to expect people to be outside and when to, if you're going to sit outside with a treat, how to let people know that you're going to be there. So standardizing the day allows people to remember so that over time it can become a cultural tradition where people don't need to be reminded about when there's this neighborhood activity like a block party or some other things that we might do that are similar. The goal is that this would reduce the amount of publicity that's needed because people just know, oh, it's a first Sunday. That means there's going to be people out walking around the neighborhood. It also allows it to have a multiplier effect because when you're talking to your friends on social media or to your sister, their out about's going to be the same day as yours. And so if they mention that they're going to be hosting an out about or doing it, it just reinforces everybody's memory about it. And then it also allows publicity through national and mass media. So we settled on Sunday evenings because it's the time of the week that Google says is the time people have the fewest conflicts. And it's the least scheduled night of the week. That's just pretty intuitive. People know that Sunday evenings are just a relaxed day. And it's just perfect for an evening walk. And we decided so that's why we chose Sundays. And we chose first Sunday just because it's the easiest to remember. So where do people go? So on outabout.org, we have a map where somebody can put up their friendly neighbor beacon. And that just means we're going to be outside inviting people to stop by. So like that person who had the water bottles, they just put up their friendly neighbor beacon on the map. And so that anybody who pulls up the website at outabout.org and looks at the map, it'll show them all of the friendly neighbor beacons in their area. So this is an example. This is an actual map screenshot that I shot one time. And so, there's a handful of people who would put up their friendly neighbor beacons this Sunday. And so there were like 6 right there in this screenshot. So people in the neighborhood could just pick that up and go walk around to visit the people who had invited them over. So the idea is that on the first Sunday, people just do this. And, I've had a lot of people, especially those with kids, tell me their kids are really excited when it comes around because they get to go on that night and they pull up the map and they want to go because kids are especially interested in what treats people are giving. And so they'll come back and report on who gave, cookies or who had brownies and or who had some kind of ice cream bar, and then that doctor who gave bottled water. So mass media, so we've done billboards, signs, every door direct mail. We sent those all out to a neighborhood. That cost about, I think it was like 51 cents per household to send out a mass mailer to tell them about it. Cities can promote it through their newsletters and websites, and anyone can do it on social media. Here in Utah, Governor Cox supported our initiative and gave a governor's declaration establishing that in Utah, the first Sunday of every month is for visiting your neighbors, and he recognized what we're doing. And we would love for people in all 50 states to request their governor to do the same thing, to start getting some attention to the desire for first Sundays to be recognized as the day that everybody goes outside to visit. And here's my contact information for anyone who wants to reach out to get more information on how to get out about going in their area or in their city. I would love to speak with you. So that's the nutshell, Dave, of what we're trying to do.
Wow, that's fantastic. You hit on some of the really big topics that I get asked about when I talk about this, like the why Sunday evenings, how much planning is involved, that sort of thing. Letting people know about it. Those are all important aspects. I know some others are. I know Laura in Excelsior Springs is moving forward with this, so I'm sure she's going to have some questions, and love for the rest of you to jump in with questions as well. Te- Tell us a little bit before that. What has been the interest nationwide? I know we've been doing it some in Republic, Missouri. I know I've seen some in Iowa. I don't know elsewhere.
Yeah, so we have people who are champions for Out About right now in El Paso, Texas, the Boise, Idaho area. I went up to speak to a conference of neighborhood folks that was organized by Boise City in October. And there have actually
Oh,
been,
excellent.
even in December and January, there were people in Boise that had put up their friendly neighbor beacon. So I don't know how many people would stop by or how many people in Boise are yet aware of Out About, but there are some people who are gung ho about it, and they're putting up their friendly neighbor beacon even in these cold months.
That's
Iowa
awesome.
City has adopted it, and Birmingham, Alabama is planning to roll it out this coming year, and Excelsior Springs. And Rachel Breen, who I see on the chat, she said that her mayor was interested. She works for Provo City here in Utah, and she said that her mayor was interested in learning more about it, and that Provo is looking for ways to help their neighbors meet each other. And so, anyway, I haven't had that call with the mayor yet, but that was really heartening to have Rachel introduce me.
Yeah, that has really spread. That should be encouraging. Absolutely. The yard signs. I know you were gracious enough to um, share with me a template. I think you have a template and some things on your website as well for door hangers and yard signs and things like that. That still seems to be the most effective tool to get the word out locally in a neighborhood most cost effectively.
Yeah, so if an individual is starting it, they can just use, I have about 10 yard signs that I go put out on the Thursday. My goal is to get them out on the Thursday evening before the Sunday, so that people have a few days notice. And then I put a door hanger on all of the houses once a year at the beginning of our peak season. So we aim to put those door flyers out the week of an out about, either before the April or the May Sunday. Um, and those say that they're the first Sunday of every month. And we tried to do door hangers before, but it's a lot of effort to walk a neighborhood and put a door hanger on every house. So when my kids, belly ached a little bit about having to do it the third time or something, I decided, okay, we'll just aim for once a year to go do this as a family activity, to go put them out everywhere. And then we rely on the yard signs to remind people in advance of that weekend's out about. And we do it. My aim for like Thursday night or so, because the trade-off between the wind and the sprinklers and the rain hammering the yard signs, and some of them just go missing because I think teenage boys sometimes think it's fun to pull them out of the ground and hit their buddy with them or something. So I just figured having them out for a few days is good to just remind people, and it does give a good party vibe because they're colorful, and we put these riders on it that says what time it is that are also colorful. And so I think as people just drive around our neighborhood and see these out on park strips, just reminding people that everyone, they get a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out, knowing that something fun's going to happen. And so they go to the website and check it out, and just reminds them to come out and visit people.
I think it's incredibly clever idea, and I've been using it myself in my own neighborhood. And one of the things I love about it, Matt, is it really answers that. It addresses that behavior in humans where we hear something, connect with your neighbors, and we say, "Oh yeah, I really need to do that," and then we kick the can down the road. And we look at the calendar like, "Oh, I can't do that this week," and "Oh, what day do I pick because I've got so many other conflicts?" And it eliminates that. It just says, here's the time we're all going to commit to this, and can you do it consistently? Um, so you've taken that off the table, all that things that helps us just delay, and I think that's part of your secret sauce here, the fact that you've done that, lay that out, and then if you can make it a tradition, consistency, right? That's really a powerful thing for connection. Now, you do have to kind of pay attention to your local neighborhoods. I can tell you in November, I had no one come to my out and about. The entire neighborhood seemed as though something had happened and I was the only person left living. Um, but it also, there was a Kansas City Chiefs football game on TV that night. So that explained where everyone was at. So I know not to do this if I'm conflicting with the Chiefs football game, but otherwise, uh, we've had pretty good attendance, usually 15, 20 people. And at least in my neighborhood, they don't really wander off elsewhere. They come with their own lawn chairs and they stay. So it's been great. I don't know what other people's experiences have been. Anyone else done an out and about? Laura, have you done any yet in Excelsior Springs? Is Laura still on?
I think Laura was there. My memory from my conversation with her was that they were planning to launch it this spring. So she
Oh,
was
okay.
just doing background work.
Okay.
She was having stuff printed. One benefit about it is so, and one of the things that made me happy about it was I went when I forget how long ago this was. This might have been like our September, October out about. I walked on the neighborhood. I pull up the map just to look for the friendly neighbor beacons to see who's invited me over, just like anyone else would. And I went to a house that was, I don't know, a half mile from mine, and uh, introduced myself. I didn't know them, and they said, "Well, we're just brand new to the area. We just moved from Florida." Um, and I said, "Oh, well, how did you know about Out About, or how did you think to host, welcome people over with your friendly neighbor beacon?" And he said, "When we moved in, our neighbor across the street said, I told him we wanted to meet people. And so he just said, oh, well, there's this thing that we do here where on the first Sunday of each month, you'll see these signs go up. And if you just go to that website and put up put your address on it, people will just show up here at your house." Um,
That's awesome.
and so they were actually making bacon wrap scallops, I think it was, that he was like really showing off because he said he and his wife loved to make these bacon wrap scallops. So they were going overboard with the welcome. But it just made me really happy that they were able to meet. Like while I was there, they probably met 15 to 20 people stopped by just to say hi. And so they were just introducing themselves to everybody. And I just thought it was like a perfect way for us to welcome them to the neighborhood and make them feel like they know lots of people and lots of people knew who had moved into that house.
Absolutely. Big time score. Chet, you have a question, and then I know we have some in chat we'll ask as well.
Yeah, Matt, I was on your website looking at the map. I'm just curious. You mentioned a few towns like Draper, El Paso. If we zoom in on those, will we be able to see, how the different pinpoints and how close those clusters are for the neighbor beacons? Or is
Yeah,
that
see
not?
the map, you can see it from everywhere. So that I haven't looked at the map, but I imagine there's no beacons on it right now because there's no out about coming up soon. Um, and it's because it's winter. So like even in Utah where it's the strongest, we had zero people doing it in on January. There were no neighbor beacons up. I was watching the forecast to see if I would do it, but it ended up being a stormy day, so I didn't try.
Got it. So it resets after I don't know, the 15th of the month or something.
It resets. I think it's programmed to reset on the Tuesday after the first Sunday. So it's on there they're up for like another 36 hours beyond the Sunday, and then it refreshes and wipes everything clean and lets people sign up for the next month. And in
Got it.
reality, most people don't sign up until like a week in advance. Some people do it multiple weeks in advance, but it's mostly that the pins come on just a few days in advance. And some even just that afternoon, you can tell that people just decided on a whim that they're going to put out some cookies and go sit outside and invite people over. So they just put up their friendly neighbor beacon, on a Sunday afternoon.
I love it. The thought occurred to me. I know some communities do free cycle events where instead of throwing stuff away or instead of having to man a garage sale, folks might put stuff they're ready to get rid of or that are happy to give it to neighbors, save them the trip to the local Goodwill. I was just the thought occurred to me that for folks that may not want to participate, you might be able to incorporate a free cycle element into that,
Mm,
where, if you have stuff to give away, not only, food or treats or water bottles, but, stuff that's cluttering your basement or attic or garage, you want to, what is that, minimalist? That could be an interesting element to think about.
I
Yeah,
have had people, so people have done different things. Like some, instead of treats, some people have done yard games where they have cornhole out, or they have two cornholes going, and they have like some kind of established like little ad hoc tournament. Some people have had like little bands. So like there was this family, and they had a few musicians that loved to play the banjo and guitar and stuff, and so they had invited some friends over, and on their front yard, they were just having a little jam session. So people just stopped and hung out with them for a little bit. And then the free cycle idea would be super fun if instead of giving, an ice cream bar, you're just offering people, some can openers and whatever else you rummage through your boxes.
Exactly. Thanks, Matt. I love this idea.
well, one question, let's see, from Manchester. Have you mentioned your most effective time frame? And could you kindly repeat how you've added the times to the yard signs?
Okay, sure. So we typically do it about 2 hours before sunset. So here in Utah, where we're on the western edge of our time zone, we usually start at 7 o'clock for most of the summer months. And then it starts getting dark around 8:30 or 9. And I just have these laminated card stocks that we staple to the side of the yard sign that says this Sunday, 7 p.m. Um, we're moving towards the website actually handling that, so that on the website on the map, when it says to people when it is, and in addition to the date, it will have the intended start time for that area. So our programmer is working on that to incorporate, to know when somebody's looking at the map when they zoom in, to know which time zone they're in and when the sunset is, and to auto populate that, so it'll say, this one would either be like 5 p.m., 6 p.m., or 7 p.m. for the expected start time. And of course, this is all loose, just like trick or treating. Like, when does trick or treating happen? There's no one's coordinating that. Just happens. Little kids start going out an hour before it's dark, and it's wrapped up. Everyone's done by 8:30 or whatever. Um, so there's no hard and fast rule, but that's how we just tell people to organize it a little bit. It's on Sunday evenings, and then everyone seems to want to know a start time, when they need to have their chairs outside, or when people are going to start walking by. Um, so right now we just staple a colorful laminated cardstock, and I can provide those to anyone who wants them on my template. And I could actually even send you the laminated start times to put on your yard signs. But we're also attempting to move to having that all done automatically on the website.
That's awesome. Well, I see that Nancy Williams in Springfield has gotten so brave that she's already committed herself for February 1st on the map. Let's see, that has popped up. Brianna Forbes, you have your hand up.
Yeah. Hey, how are y'all
Hello.
doing?
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, super glad to be here. I love this idea. I work for a community development organization, and we've been trying to figure out like how to do like rolling block parties based on street. And I'm like, this seems way easier than that. So I guess my question is, when you first started doing this, I guess what were some like barriers, or yeah, like what were some things like in the beginning that you kind of were having to push through?
So, so like the intention is that it's all just self-organizing, and nobody has to coordinate it. In reality, when I started it, I would ask for people as volunteers to host, and so to put up their friendly neighbor beacon. And so I just reached out to my own network of people I knew and said, this is what we're trying to do. Would you host a stop? Just put up your friendly neighbor beacon. This week or something, just to get the ball rolling, so people start to understand how it works. And so I went to the effort of like publicizing it and having my kids, go with me to put up door hangers and yard signs to explain the concept. But rather than just rely on people to volunteer to put up their friendly neighbor beacon, I had pre-selected people to get that started.
Okay.
And then I would also ask people as they would come around. So people who participated in an out of out as just a walker, if they were just walking around, I would frequently ask them if they would volunteer to put up the friendly neighbor beacon in a following month.
Got it. Okay. Have you had any like I'm thinking about like some streets in our community with just some like more elderly folks where I'm like, ooh, I don't know like if an app or going on a website might be have you heard of other communities or neighborhoods with that challenge as well?
I mean, I'm sure that the technology prevents or presents a barrier to some people who would be uncomfortable using a phone or an app, but I don't know how, I think you'd have to be quite old to not be familiar with how to use a basic website. And I guess we'd just be relying on people to help them or to be mindful of people
Okay.
in the
Yeah, I was
neighborhood who
just
need some
curious.
assistance. My sister, who's really adopted this with a lot of enthusiasm, she has done a friendly neighbor beacon every single month in her area. And she says, but I've never done it at my own house. She said, there's just widows in our area. And so I've just asked them if they would co-host with me. And so I go to their house and we sit out in front of her driveway. She said, I take a treat over. So I've taken like cookies over or something and I sit with her in her
Um,
driveway. We put up the friendly neighbor beacon at her house and she's just thrilled to have people come visit her on a Sunday night. So she said, I'm just over at one of our neighbors' houses,
oh, that's brilliant.
helping
That
her do it.
is
It's a really good idea. Okay.
that is a very good idea.
Okay.
I would say in my just based on my neighborhood experience, probably half of my participants are probably not very tech savvy. And they've learned about it from the signs we posted in the neighborhood, and have seen that way. And I think the other thing I found interesting, at least for me, is people coming and staying, not just walking and leaving. And then really August, September, October, those months, I'm not sure I had any repeats. Now, maybe that means that I scared everybody off, that one time at my driveway was all they could take. I don't know. Or it's just, people have things on the schedule and they couldn't have the consistency, but we still managed to pick up, you know, 15 people, 12, 15 people each month, but different people. So you've been at this for a long time, man. I know, and being consistent and getting it to be a regular habit. So that takes a while. And maybe is that part of where cities can really aid in this in terms of like a mayor and others helping promote it, getting people. Does that help with the consistency a little quicker if it's talked about citywide?
Well, yeah, I mean, it would have to because this is free for anyone to do. There's no cost at all. The only cost is whatever anyone wants to give away when they invite people to come over. So it's just the cost of some ice cream bars or cookies, or as Chet suggested, you could do a free cycling where you're not even spending any money. You're just using it as an opportunity for people to take away your clutter. Or, if you just did a yard game or just had somebody who liked to play a guitar, just sit out and sing and just have some fun, because the whole intention is just to get people socializing. As far as the consistency goes, I really deliberated for a long time, and the biggest headache I had after I decided that this was a worthwhile thing to promote was trying to figure out the optimum cadence for how frequently you did this. Um, and I couldn't come up with anything that I thought people could remember except for doing it once a month, like a first Sunday, or doing it once a year where you just chose a specific day. And I opted against the once a year because I think it's too infrequent. And if there's just like bad weather that day or something, it would just kill it. Or if people are just out of town or traveling or something. And so I opted for the once a month. And I think there are a lot of people who don't participate every time and they just use it to, go out occasionally. But because it's every month, if they're traveling some Sunday or there's a Chiefs game, or some conflict, then, it's not the end of the world. They just do it the next time or whenever they want to. So I think, realistically, most people are only going to do this a few times a year, or once a year, or twice a year, or something. But they have multiple opportunities to look for good weather or, just whatever conditions make it perfect for them.
Mm,
Going to your question about cities, um, I think the biggest benefit they have is they usually have a giant database of email addresses and different communication channels to reach the public. So because it's free and there's no cost to it, the only obstacle is just publicity and awareness. So you just have to like let people know what's happening, when it's happening and how it works. And cities are just really well positioned to communicate with, a huge community of people.
Yeah. I see I see Daniel has asked about maybe cities supporting individuals, residents that want to partake or participate. I know some cities do small grants for neighborhood activities or they do things to support block parties. I would think this would fall into that category if you need some, if something like that exists in your community to have some support in that way. I don't know if there's other examples that you're aware of, Matt, other ways that cities have supported the effort.
I only know of, well, Boise did have a program where the city organizer who coordinated this event that I went to, she said that there was some program they had when she was speaking to the attendees that I presented to, that there was some way for them to request money from the city to pay for like signs and door hangers. And I think she said they
Mm,
could even use it for buying food and stuff. But my ultimate goal for this is that it's very inexpensive as far as like, I don't want people to feel like they have to spend a lot of money to have people over visiting in their house. It's perfectly adequate to just have a jug of lemonade or something. Um, so I don't, to my mind, there should be no cost at all for someone to host and to put up their friendly neighbor beacon and just say, you're welcome to come over.
yeah,
Um, some people do think it's fun to do something fancy, but I like, that neighbor who did the bacon wrapped scallops. But one of the drawbacks I have about that is just I thought, well, if it makes it, it might intimidate other people to think, well, I'm not just going to offer some lemonade, some country time lemonade, um, if people are getting too fancy. Um, and so anyway, that's a trade-off between thinking it's really fun when someone does do something special versus the risk that other people would be deterred from doing it because they think that the expectations in the neighborhood are too high for what you're going to do before, or even how nice your yard has to be, or how clear of dandelions your lawn needs to be if you're going to have people walk by and tell them to come by. So
yeah.
anyway, that's just one of the concerns I've had is how to keep it low effort and low expectation and just friendly, and we're just all trying to have fun together.
That's a really good point. Really good point. Laura, you have a question.
Well, I'm sorry, I wasn't ignoring you earlier. I'm just having some horrific technical difficulties today.
Oh,
I couldn't get off mute. But yeah, we're launching here in Excelsior Springs. We're launching in March because I think the weather should be nice enough. Hopefully, the first week of March. So we're in the first week of April this year happens to be Easter. So I was afraid there'd be some conflicts there. So yeah, we're going to launch in March, and what I'm doing is identifying some partners in the different subdivisions that I can kind of task with the responsibility of putting signs out in their subdivisions. And with the city here, I have the capability of printing off a bunch of the door hangers. So I'll task those neighborhood representatives with the job of getting door hangers out to their neighborhoods. And we'll do that just once in the beginning and then use our city social media and other tools to push the reminders out every month. But we're going to go March to November.
excellent. I see Evelyn has a question about whether or not neighborhood stores like corner stores or churches, if either of those have been involved much in this effort yet. I've not seen evidence of that. I don't know on your website at least, Matt, if you are aware of those.
I know that there are churches that like announce out abouts as like a community, just as an announcement to their own congregations that this is an activity that's happening, and that we encourage you to be neighborly with everybody, and so they have promoted it. I don't think I'm not aware of any churches or stores that have participated in any formal capacity.
Well, what is your long-term vision for this? Is there uh, some grant writing that needs to happen to help support it in some way, expand it further, or what are your long-range plans and goals?
Well, I hope it just snowballs, and as we, find cities that use it, that I can go to other conferences and tell, success stories of other cities that have adopted it, and that eventually
Mm,
it would become nationwide. And I think that the only way it's likely to grow is to show that success in small in smaller places and then just continue growing and building momentum. It would be incredible if we could get some kind of corporate sponsor. You know, one of my victories would be if it could be commercialized. We talk about a lot of people lament the commercialization of different holidays, but you know, I consider it a huge victory if Walmart or Target had or you know, Kroger on the weekend of a out about had some little call out encouraging people to buy cookies or lemonade or whatever. So I'd love it to be commercialized and for them to think that there was enough interest in it um, that they could make some money selling stuff to people who are hosting out about stops. But you know, my goal is eventually that a generation from now, our kids who are, you know, everyone who's a youth now will be adults, um, and they'll just have grown up thinking that this was normal and this is, you know, what people do on first Sundays is you go around and say hi to people.
I love that. And I love sharing with others about this program out and about and the effort, the opportunity that exists with that. Others that are on the Zoom, other questions do you have for Matt as our time winds down? Rachel.
Hey, so I've had Matt come to my neighborhood meetings and talk about this
Oh,
program, and it hasn't really flown. Our neighborhood meetings, they mostly just like to complain. They don't like anything positive. And so that's why I've invited him to speak to our mayor who is interested in this. Even though, as Matt said, here in Utah, people have been doing kind of their own outabouts. What I noticed in my neighborhood is they were doing an out about, but they were only advertising it to people who lived in single family detached homes. They didn't, were not inviting people in apartments, in condos, like that. It was just kind of a house thing. And as someone who lives in a condo, I thought that was rude. And so I started doing my own where everyone was invited. And that's why I was excited about Matt's program, because sometimes if you're doing it on your own, you're just inviting your little circle of friends. And I love that it's so welcoming to everyone in the community. And I would love to see it go about. And I know my city, we have neighborhood grants that we're hoping to be involved. And so hopefully Matt can get together with our mayor and we can make it happen. So then that way, instead of just these small clusters having their own individual outabouts, it's more universal. I just love it.
great, great input. Great observation too. Well, you mentioned your neighborhood, you know, preferring negativity. If if HOAs and associations spent more time building social connection and less time fussing over rules or citing people for violations in HOAs, those things would actually kind of end up taking care of themselves. You had that social connection and trust. That should really be first priority. So uh, just keep preaching it and keep giving people opportunities. Any other questions from participants today? This is your opportunity to ask a question of the authority while he is here. Perhaps not. This presentation Q&A will be sent out to all 1,025 class participants by email. It'll be available on YouTube later on today. We usually have a couple of hundred people watch those. So we can all do our part in helping spread the good word about out and about and gain participants. Megan or Lisa, looks like maybe one of you have a question. You can unmute.
Yes. Hi there. Hi, David. Thank you so
Yes.
much for being here, Matt. Lisa and I are with the city of Manchester. We're thinking about, so we would be implementing something citywide where just 5 square miles, 18,000 residents. We have a strong network of homeowners associations, so that would be helpful. But as we were talking about it, Lisa had brainstormed something similar kind of previously. But it was more open-ended. So instead of having the exact beacons and the events at people's houses, it was just more of a kind of hit the sidewalk and see your neighbors between this and this time kind of idea. Um, we're wondering if as you were developing your concept, which is fantastic, I should have led with that. As you were developing your concept, did you consider a model that was more loosely organized, wasn't didn't have driveways or locations, but just like get out and see your neighbors? Did you consider that? And were there downsides, or just kind of comparing those two models, what your reaction is in terms of what the pros and cons are of the various options based on your experience?
Well, thank you. So because like on that map that I showed earlier where it showed the neighbor beacons, or the friendly neighbor beacons, you run across people who are going different directions. So you're going to a neighbor beacon at the same time someone's leaving a neighbor beacon. And so you do run into people and you say hi. Those encounters tend to be very short and just, those are like 20-second conversations just to say, where have you been? And there, like question earlier was about elderly people not knowing how to use the app or the map rather. I've seen a lot of people who don't bother even going to the website to look at the map. They just go outside walking around and then they ask somebody, "Oh, where are the people who are hosting? Where are the friendly neighbor beacons?" And someone just says, "Well, down on Pheasant View, there's someone doing it over there. The Rather family or whatever had it down over there." And so they just wander around and then they just ask people and walk around. So I think the way it's structured right now with having friendly neighbor beacons is it does foster, street level interactions as well. So it's not just people interacting. Is that what I understood is the idea that you were contemplating was one where people just walk around and they just bump into people?
Yes, that's what we were thinking. But a couple of things just in that feedback you gave us, even in that comment, that occurs to me is with the beacons, you're sharing the name of the neighbor, which makes the whole thing a lot easier. We talk all the time about how it's sometimes hard, like, oh gosh, I've known you've lived 3 doors down from me, but I still don't know your name. So the beacon makes that more clear before you arrive. And also, just as you're talking about this, I'm thinking, an interaction on the sidewalk, you mentioned that could be brief, but the interaction on the sidewalk is maybe more transitional than come have a chat on the porch or sit in the driveway or whatever. It welcomes a different kind of interaction.
And the interaction I see, I mean, dog owners seem to always stop. I know I don't have a dog, but I notice the people who have dogs, when they're walking around doing out about, all the dog owners seem to stop and say hi to each other, or the dogs want to say hi to each other. But it does foster just a really fun feeling when you just see other people walking, even if I don't stop and talk to them because I'm on the other side of the street or I don't know them or something. It's just like the whole neighborhood's out and walking around. And so that just creates a really good vibe and just makes you feel like this is a friendly place. People are happy to be out and about. It's nice weather. We're in a good mood. People are being friendly. People of their own volition are just out giving stuff away to their neighbors and just welcoming over. And that's the kind of neighborhood we are, where people just like enjoy each other's company and are happy to spend their own money to be friendly. So I think seeing people out enjoying it, even when I don't have the chance to talk to them, I think is really rewarding.
Mm-hmm. It occurs to me to build on Chet's idea that you could also do in the spring, when you divide your plants or, pull things out of the yard or whatnot, that would be another thing that you could put out to just share with your neighbors that then beautifies everybody's place. So I liked that idea, that recycling kind of idea, Chet. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you so much. This has been fantastic.
It becomes a natural launching point for a lot of different things like that. I see Stan is asking, Stan's in Springfield, Missouri. I'm wondering how this might be done in a multi-story apartment complex. Perhaps a few hosts could set up outside or in a common gathering area each time, or what are your thoughts on that?
I
How
haven't
that
had
work in
anyone do it,
apartment?
but I'm not aware of anyone who's done it, but I have been hopeful that they would do it in a common area or a parking lot or something, and they would just like put up the friendly neighbor beacon, wherever their apartment building has some picnic tables or something, just to say we're going to be down there and I'm going to have lemonade, to be friendly with everybody who wants to stop by.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So
And
Stan, let us try it out and let us know what kind of response you get.
and any plans to launch or share any sort of case studies or stories that you've been collecting?
I mean, I'd love to, eventually I'd love to do a case study. And I am, collecting a bunch of stories, but I haven't tried to write them down aside from, sharing them in conversations like this one.
Well, that's a
But that's a good thing I should start writing them down and putting them on our website better.
yeah. I mean, that gives people examples to maybe follow, but also encouragement to do, and a way to kind of celebrate the ones that are happening. You get more of what you celebrate. And uh, one final question then out of Manchester. Are there any additional costs we should anticipate besides marketing materials? There hasn't been for me. I don't know. I bought a bunch of sodas the first month I did it, and I was left with a whole bunch of sodas that I don't drink. So the next month I did water bottles because I always drink those, and then everybody showed up said, "No, I don't need it. That's okay. I don't need a water bottle." So maybe I didn't even need to do that. Uh,
At least where I live, the teenagers and youth, they're all about the treats and food. So, um, then we've had like 23 people within like 2 miles of our house host one time, and my teenager and his friends, they went and visited all 23 and reported back on what all the treats were everywhere. So, kids are really focused on the brownies or ice cream or whatever.
all right. Well, we're coming up on that 1 o'clock stop time. I want to be a good steward of your time, but also don't want to hold Matt too long. We sure appreciate him joining us today from Utah and sharing about this. It's a great, easy to implement program and offers some consistency and some real constructive outcomes from this. And I just really appreciate your ingenuity, your ability to apply tech to a problem, and also the research you did, Matt. Thank you again for sharing this. I'm just thrilled that it's taking hold in some places.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. We'll go ahead and hit stop.